I potentially might feel like I want to leave the UK before he gets out as a result of this, because I'm not sure I want to live in the same country as him when he gets out.
The following film explores the intersection of sexual violence and migration. It contains discussions of sensitive and distressing subjects. Viewer discretion is strongly advised. The first 2 interviews are with Sophie, a rape survivor, and her father, William, both pseudonyms. The crime was committed by an illegal migrant. Thank you so much for joining us. So can you tell us what happened from the beginning?
In short, I was on a night out with some friends, and at the end of the night, I kind of broken up with that friend group, so I decided to make my own way home. As I was walking home, I bumped into this individual. He just started grabbing me and touching me and followed me home. I asked him to do that. He just ignored me. About halfway home, he at one point pinned me against a door and started biting me. 2 people walked past and asked him if I was okay, to which he then backed off for a second to respond to these people. That's when I slipped away. And I carried on walking. I didn't realise that he then started following me for about 15 minutes. And then we got close to a graveyard, and he just grabbed me and pushed me into the graveyard and took off my clothes.
Now, you don't have to answer this, but can you tell us what happened in the graveyard specifically? Again, if you're not comfortable answering, just tell me and we can move on.
Yeah, I can do. He pushed me against this brick and tried to force me down against this brick wall. I ended up pushing back on him, and he fell back for a second, and I turned around and faced him, and we were like facing each other. And then he pushed me to the ground, and then went to me on the ground.
So he sexually assaulted you in this graveyard. How long did the whole thing take? How long did the whole incident last?
So from when I first bumped into him in the city centre, up until when I finally left him, was maybe about 45 minutes.
And what happened straight afterwards? How did the sort of incident end? What did you run? Did you call the police? Can you just tell us a bit more about that?
I did. I ran home after that point. I ran. My house was only a 5-minute run away. So yeah, I just ran home.
Did you feel safe living in Oxford prior to the incident?
I did. I thought Oxford was quite a safe place when I applied to university here. I always felt safe living here beforehand.
How did it make you feel? What was your immediate reaction when you were attacked that night? How did it impact you emotionally?
I think I was in shock for a little while afterwards. I was quite upset, maybe a little bit embarrassed and ashamed, especially to tell my parents. It was mostly just shock, though.
Are you satisfied with the 12-year sentence that Alshimery received from the justice system?
12 years sounds and feels like a lot. When you put it into context, that affects my life. I mean, in 12 years, I'll be going into my 30s, so he'll be coming out when I'm about halfway through my life. I've got another half of my life where I have to live just knowing that he's out and about still. That's half of my life. But 12 years does seem and sound like quite a lot. I mean, it could have been a lot worse, so I'm thankful for that.
In your witness statement, you mentioned that you came forward about this attack because you wanted to help other girls and other women be protected from the people like the man who attacked you. Can you tell us a bit more about that?
I sometimes feel like it's a little easier to stand up and protect somebody else as opposed to protecting yourself. So feeling that I was protecting someone else or potentially preventing what happened to me happening to them, it made me feel a little bit better about the situation. So I felt like I was doing it for someone else as opposed to myself, because I don't really feel I could live with myself if I didn't say anything. And then I saw on the news that the same guy had done it to someone else and that I could have prevented that. I just don't feel like I could have lived with myself, so I felt like I was protecting someone else by standing up and saying something. It felt easier to defend someone else as opposed to myself. That's where that motivation came from.
How has this experience impacted your daily life, your relationship with your family and your friends and so on?
Quite soon after it happened, I did used to get panic attacks quite a lot, and sometimes I felt like I couldn't really leave my room. I had this really strong feeling that I really wanted to go home, because it was so soon after I just moved away from home. I felt like I wanted to move back home, but with no fault of my parents, they unfortunately had just moved house into a different city. So if I was to go home, it would be to a whole new city and a whole new house. That wouldn't have felt like home to me, so I felt stuck there. I couldn't go home where I wanted to go. But also, I was in this city that I didn't feel safe in anymore. I was with all of these people that I'd barely met. So I did used to get panic attacks quite a lot. And I used to stay in my little room. I couldn't get out of bed. The friends that I had met in the first few weeks, I stopped talking to them, and they stopped talking to me. It did impact me quite a lot.
Did you feel supported by the court system, or did you feel let down at all by the courts or the justice system or the police?
To be honest, no. I didn't feel let down by them at all. They were quite supportive, and they were really, really good. They were very sensitive, and they did support me through absolutely everything. I mean, I had a personal officer that would guide me through everything, and she was my point of contact through everything. She was really, really lovely. And she did support me quite a lot. I didn't really feel like let down by the system.
Now, obviously, the man who attacked you was an illegal migrant staying in a migrant hotel. Do you feel let down, by the Home Office or by the government for allowing this guy into the country illegally and then, making taxpayers pay for his accommodation?
It doesn't feel right in that sense, especially that we don't know much about this guy, and obviously because of what he did to me. I still don't know anything about him. Apart from that brief moment in contact with him, I know nothing about him, which is really, really scary to me. I do feel let down by the Home Office. The fact that they haven't really done anything about it. In respect to the 12 years, obviously, when he comes out after 12 years, I'm not 100% sure that I'm going to feel safe being in the same country as him. I potentially might feel like I want to leave the UK before he gets out as a result of this, because I'm not sure I want to live in the same country as him when he gets out. But where would I go? To a different country? I've never lived in a different country. I've always lived in the UK my whole life. I feel like I've got to give up my country so that he can have it, if that makes sense, because I'm not sure I'm going to feel safe in the same country as him after 12 years when he gets out.
That makes total sense. And I think most people watching this will think it shouldn't be you leaving the country, it should be him being deported from the country. I'm guessing you would agree with that.
Yeah, to an extent I do agree. I would feel a lot more comfortable if he was. I'm not sure we'll go down that route. I would love the option to be able to feel safe in my home country again.
Thank you so much for joining us. When you first realised what had happened to your daughter, what was your immediate reaction and emotional reaction?
To be honest, I was very numb. My only concern was that my daughter was okay. Because the way I was told was very much like, my wife said, "You need to sit down. I've got something to tell you." And it was building up that suspense, so I already knew that something bad had happened. And then when I knew it was my daughter, my only concern was, is she okay? Is she alive? I didn't know what happened, but I knew it was bad. And then she told me. I just knew that she was okay, but what I was told was that she didn't want to speak to me, and I was not allowed to go and see her. And that was it. So I was still a little bit in the dark, but I was relatively calm. Shocked. I think it would be a better way to put it. I was in a bit of a shock, and just how could I help? What can I do and how can I support her?
And when you found out that the person who attacked your daughter was a migrant staying in a migrant hotel in Oxford, how did you react to that? Did that change your view of the whole case?
I was angry. I was angry because we know that these sorts of things happen when migrant hotels are put in specific locations. So I just didn't understand how an illegal migrant had been able to leave a hotel and then roam the streets of Oxford late at night trying to attack girls. Why was it allowed to happen? What security was there at the hotel at that time to prevent this from happening? It should never have happened at all. I don't know. I'm lost for words on it, to be honest.
How has this incident impacted your family?
Oh, it's been devastating. I used to be really close with my daughter, and then when it happened, I would get the occasional call when she was having a panic attack and I'd have to go over and help her. But then, after I suppose 7 or 8 months of her trying to feel a bit better and venture out and try and be normal, she wouldn't answer calls and she wouldn't respond to text messages. So I very rarely speak to her. I've only seen her once this year, and I still send out text messages throughout the week. Just what I'm up to or what you're up to and how's it going, but very, very rarely do I get a response. So it's really sad. That's awful. It feels like I've lost my daughter, unfortunately, and I don't know what I can do to fix that. I think it's beyond my capabilities to be able to fix that, but I'll do my best.
And what was it like for you dealing with the court process, dealing with the legal system?
I still don't really know what happened. I know it was bad, and I know that the police said that I shouldn't see her, and that throughout the court case I was told that I shouldn't attend because of the nature of it. So I didn't. However, the police did keep me very well informed and did answer questions when I asked them. So the police were very good. The barrister was very good because he did phone me every now and again and give me an update. Although the updates that he gave me, we did already know because I think the local papers reported on the case, and as soon as it was the end of the day, the update would come. It was tough because some of the things that you would read, it just wasn't right. How the defence played it and what they did, and how could they put somebody through that? It was tough. I did go at the very end of the trial for the sentencing part, and when I went in, again, our barrister asked the judge to not read through the whole part of the case because I was there due to its content.
How did it make you feel when Alshimery, this is the migrant who attacked your daughter, was claiming in court that your daughter was essentially a prostitute? What was your reaction to that?
I think I cried because the case against him, I think, was relatively strong. And then the defence do that. I thought that because it was a jury, they would have had to prove beyond reasonable doubt that she's not. And it's like, how can you prove that? I was angry because I don't think it would have been the migrant's words. I'm not sure where he got that from. I know that my daughter would have never said that or been like that. It was completely fictitious. It was very upsetting when I read that. My heart sank, and I thought that there is no way this guy will get away with it. Well done really to the police and the barrister for doing what they did and getting him convicted. That was a tough time hearing that.
So like you said, he was convicted for 12 years in prison with the possibility of parole after 8 years. Do you think that was a just sentence for this man?
At the time, I thought it was an okay sentence. That is quite considerable an amount of time in prison. I think he's eligible for parole after 8 years. Obviously, I don't understand the 5 years on probation afterwards because I think to myself, surely this guy will never walk British streets again. The minute he's released, he should be sent to wherever his home country is. He was a very, very dangerous man. He should never ever have been allowed out on the streets in the first place. I need to try and find out how and why he was allowed. I've written to the Home Office and asked a lot of questions, but they have not responded, unfortunately. I've tried to get legal representation, but because at this point trying to protect my daughter's anonymity, the information I pass maybe isn't quite sufficient for somebody to say, oh yeah, we'll help you out. So I'm caught between a rock and a hard place at the moment, unfortunately. But hopefully, when he is released, he will be returned to his home country of origin.
So you want him to be deported?
Absolutely, I want him to be deported. I do not want this person to be given the opportunity to do this again to anybody else. But am I wrong here in saying that isn't that the law? That if you're a foreign national and you commit a crime in the United Kingdom, then you are deported? I always thought that was the law.
Do you feel that you've been let down by the Home Office, by the government, or even the previous government, who let this guy into the country, who allowed this illegal migrant to come in, stay in a hotel on taxpayer money, and then attack your daughter?
Do I feel let down? Yes, they failed. They failed in every possible way. Not just the current government, but the previous government. I'd say right back into maybe 2008. What's happening now, I can't help but feel is more by design. I feel that if there was the willpower to stop people coming to this country illegally, then we could. But it seems that instead of putting in deterrence, it's the opposite of what's happening. I want to try and get a hold of the court papers, the transcripts, not to read about the actual case. I need to try and avoid that bit. But I do want to know more about where he is from, how he got here, how he was processed, and how long he'd been here before he went on and did what he did. Because it's clearly failing somewhere within the system.
So how can people help you? I know that you're looking for specific things. What can they do to help you if they're watching this video?
Well, it's not necessarily helping me. I need answers myself. What's happened is awful and should not happen to anybody. Although my daughter's living a relatively normal life, I think, but on her own. Very solitary, I believe. And the knock-on effect it had for us. I mean, imagine every night you go to bed and every night you're wondering, are you going to get a call? Every night. And that has been devastating. I mean, it's just tough. It's tough living like that. We do have a crowdfunding website, and I do want to get a lawyer. I have written to lawyers again, but I've not had a response. I've written to MPs, and I've not had a response from anybody. One MP responded, but then asked what constituency I was in, and he was unable to take it further because we were in a different constituency, and he advised me to go to my current MP. But going to somebody that's effectively allowed this to happen is not really worth it, to be honest. So I need to try and do some crowdfunding and try and get a list of any lawyers. If any lawyers see this and you'd like to help us, please get in touch with Stephen. We would greatly appreciate it. I think that the hotel needs to answer a lot of questions. If there's a security team at the hotel, then they've got questions to answer, as well as the Home Office. How has this been allowed to happen?
Do you feel that Britain would be a safer country for everyone, including women and girls, if we had a much stronger policy on immigration and our border control?
Well, I think I've got a strong policy on immigration and border controls. It's just whenever the government wants to enact it, if they want to utilise it. At the moment, I'm not seeing that. So I think that we've already got a strong policy. They're just not doing anything with it, which makes me think, what? What on earth is going on? Why are they welcoming thousands of people every week and then allowing them to roam the streets? I mean, you see the videos online of migrants in parks and migrants outside schools and head teachers chasing them away. I mean, alarm bells are ringing, and it's shameful of the government. Don't get me wrong, I think migration is a good thing, and I think we've been a very successful country. But those are the people that are vetted and come here and work and really contribute and integrate. But I don't think the people coming over in the boats illegally are here to work hard and contribute to society.
To understand whether Sophie's case is an isolated incident or part of a broader pattern of crimes committed by migrants in Britain, I spoke with Robert Bates from the Centre for Migration Control. So Rob, is it the case that migrants are overrepresented in statistics when it comes to crime against women in Britain?
Yes, and Ministry of Justice data that we released earlier this year shows very clearly that there is a pattern of individuals from certain countries being disproportionately likely to commit sexual assaults and be convicted of those sexual assaults than the British population. If we look at Afghanistan, for instance, they're 22 times more likely to be convicted of a sexual assault than the British population. There's a very clear pattern of individuals from sub-Saharan Africa and South Asia as well are very, very overrepresented by their share of the population. If you take foreign nationals as a whole, they're 71% more likely to be convicted of a sexual offence than the British population as a whole. And then we also need to look at the stats in raw numbers as well. A quarter of sexual offences convicted in this country between 2021 and 2023 were of foreign nationals. So there's a huge problem here, and frankly the checks that we do at the border when awarding these visas do not go anywhere near enough to stop that threat that is being exposed to British women.
So do you feel that immigration is essentially a threat to women in Britain today?
The current system that we have, which does not discriminate between individuals from, say, Luxembourg, so a pensioner from Luxembourg is treated in exactly the same way as a young man from Afghanistan. There is no delineation, and that is because in 2020 the Conservative Party completely capitulated as an appeal was launched under the Equality Act, where they said that every individual from any country has to be treated the same. Until that point, the Home Office had actually operated a system of red lists. So whilst individuals were applying for visas, there were certain considerations that were made about perhaps their propensity to violence or sexual offences. So what's really happened since then is we've thrown the door open and we've made no delineation between individuals from very, very different cultures to our own, places where women and children are treated terribly, have very little rights, and men are frankly being brought up in a milieu that does not really endear themselves to British values, and it means that they are more likely to be posing a threat once here.
Not everyone agrees there is a link between immigration and crime. I sat down with neurodiversity coach and broadcaster Fahima Mohammed.
Well, I think that crime is about individuals, not the entire communities. We don't generalize all white men for domestic abuse, for example, or paedophilia. So why do this for the entire ethnic group or a migration group? Even though per capita, I understand that for that minority, there's still evidence showing that there is still a strong amount of people that are there in the criminal justice system for certain crimes. However, overall, the numbers of crime is generally, because of the population, majority, within the British society of English-born, individuals. So if you are going to, address crime, let's just talk about it, because there's different things where crime takes place. It's not necessarily about the fact that where they come from. Safety matters 100%, but there's so many different factors why crime happens other than the fact that where they are coming from. And I feel it's been recognized in the fact that instead of women's safety, which actually is there for everyone to unnecessarily exploit, thinking that it's only migrants.
Some people point to the grooming gangs, and they say that, I think the statistic is 1/4 of all sexual assault convictions are from non-UK nationals in Britain. And they've made the argument that without the immigration, without those people being here, there would have been a lot more women who are being safe, who are safe in Britain today. Again, coming back to that point about the sort of per capita statistics, how do you respond to the argument that cutting migration is important to try and protect women?
If we took away all migration and if it actually eliminated complete crime, then yeah, maybe. But unfortunately, that's not the answer. Yes, Rotherham was horrific and systemic failure was the real scandal. And what happened in Rotherham was inexcusable. But the problem wasn't just race or culture. It was institutional neglect, poor safeguarding, and failing leadership across police and councils. And again, most child sexual exploitation in the UK is committed by white men. And this is the Home Office's own 2020 review found no evidence that ethnicity was a reliable predictor. In fact, most grooming and abuse still involves UK-born white men. Don't radicalize crime. Prosecute criminals. If we are going to say take away all the immigrants, yes, in every instance, you take away criminals, it will reduce the crime. And I think we need to concentrate on the deeper issue of what is the actual reason behind these people doing it, whichever background, race, or ethnicity they belong to. And that's where you're going to actually tackle the kind of injustice against women.
As Britain confronts a growing number of violent crimes linked to illegal and legal migration, public concern is mounting. Victims like Sophie remind us that behind every statistic lies a human story. The question now is whether the system will protect the innocent or continue to fail them.